I'm super excited to bring on Kristi Faltorusso, our Chief Customer Officer at ClientSuccess, and introduce myself. I'm Dave Blake. I'm the founder and CEO of ClientSuccess. Kristi, we're so excited to be back, right?
I'm so excited. This series in particular, I know that we've done 26 hours. Can you believe that, Dave? We've recorded 26
Crazy.
hours of these boot camps. But this series I'm really excited about because we're tackling topics that I don't feel like a lot of the community has covered yet, including today's, which is completely new concept, which I'm excited to kind of put out there and see how people feel about it. So really excited to be back.
Well, it's great to be back. It's been a while. We've had holidays and different things, and this is our favorite time of the year when we do these boot camps, and favorite day of the week because we get to be with the whole community of customer success professionals that we love, right?
Love it.
All right. Well, I will drop off and man the chat and the Q&A and let you go at it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Yes, just a friendly reminder, everyone, we will save some time at the end for Q&A. So please, if you've got questions, it's fine to put them in the chat if they're easy things that either the community can answer or Dave can respond to quickly. But if there's things you want us to answer at the end of the session when we do the live Q&A, please make sure you use the Zoom Q&A so the questions are all there, organized, and we can make sure we get through as many as possible. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's session. So we're going to be covering designing a success probability score to predict customer success. So as I mentioned when I was just chatting with Dave, right, this is a newer concept. It's something that I had designed for our team. And so really excited to kind of put this out there to the community. I had done some LinkedIn content and teased it out when I had introduced it to our team here. And like I said, it's a new concept. Really excited to hear all your feedback and your thoughts about it. We're going to walk through what it is, how to build it, how to manage it, the value and the impact to your business, to your team, and more importantly, to your customers. So let's go ahead and get right in. So I want to start with just the concept here. So many of you are probably working in an organization where you have an ICP designed or defined, right? Your ideal customer profile. And now I want to just talk about this for a second, because just because your customer purchases your software does not mean that they have what it takes to be successful. And I think this was something that I, over the course of my years in customer success, and I've been doing this for a while, we put a lot of emphasis on like the sales team making sure that they were selling to the ICP. And sometimes it felt like, even though they kind of checked the ICP box, from a customer success standpoint, I'd struggle because it didn't always feel like, even though they kind of met that criteria, that they met the criteria required to be wildly successful in the partnership. And so I always felt like there was this gap, but I didn't want to deter sales from selling to the appropriate customers who could or should buy it. I more importantly wanted to know, now that they are a customer, how can my organization facilitate them driving as much value and being successful? And so this was a concept that I struggled with for a bit until I came up with this idea that we should go create something. So, like I said, we needed a way to profile our customers. And this helped us to determine like how we would support them and understand their ability to be successful in the partnership. So, like I said, it was a really big kind of new concept of, great, now that we have this customer who checked this initial box, who are they and where are they starting from, right? Because I'm sure you've got a ton of customers yourselves who they are now customers. They're super excited to be here, but those customers don't necessarily have the tools or the experience or really even the understanding, the fundamental understanding of how your technology or software is going to help improve their lives, their business experiences for their customers. So this was something that we put together, and I kind of coined it the success probability score. So this idea of creating a formulaic way to say, based on certain points of criteria, this will help me understand what is the likelihood this customer can be successful in the partnership. Now, again, it doesn't matter, right? Because your customer is now a customer. So regardless if they score high or they score low is not the point of this exercise. In fact, you're going to find that your customers are going to score and rank at all ends of the spectrum. But really, the score was designed to help me and my team say, regardless of where they score, what is the correct experience we need to design in order for them to get success from our product, from our people, and the processes we design. So this score is really helping us influence how we work together to help them be successful. Now, like I said, it's a new concept. So let me start by telling you a couple things. One, we'll get into this, but this is not your health score. This is not replace a health score. That's not what this is. This is, again, a weighting that allows you to understand what is the probability of your customer's success long-term. Now, again, I believe any customer can be successful, right? But it's going to take a different path in order to get them there, right? A customer who maybe doesn't have experience with software like yours, they might need more education. You've got customers who maybe have resource constraint issues, right? Where I know that many of us are facing that with all of the economic changes, forcing businesses to downsize and consolidate. We're trying to do the same level of work and drive the same level of impact, but with a little bit less. And so, our teams and our customers, how do we help them knowing what we know about who they are and where they're starting in their journey with us? So what this was, it was a profile of our customers. We set some specific criteria that help us understand what is common about all of the customers who are the most successful with our software, right? And we tried to create this very easy because I didn't want this to be super confusing. It needed to be lightweight and easy for people to understand and for us to score. So we created a list of binary traits, right? Anything that could be answered with like yes or no, or check or no check, right? Like we just wanted to make it easy. Either they fit this criteria or they don't. And I know, listen, we went back and forth on this so many times. Well, it's like, well, they're kind of in the, no, I'm like, either you are or you're not. And so we created this to understand what the profile was of our customers and what they look like, again, where they are and how we can help them. The next thing we did with the score is we weighted it. So not every piece of criteria is created equal, right? So same thing that you might think about when you're designing your customer health score. This was a weighted profile. So I'm going to show you in a little bit what our profile looks like and talk about how I picked the criteria and why and how we weighted it. But it's important for you to understand that all the elements that you include in your profile, there might not all have the same weighting, and that's okay. And listen, there's also no limit to the number of things you put into it. There's not like a secret formula. Ours has 11, which for me drove me crazy because I wish it was 10 or 8 or right, like an even number, even 12 would have been better. But we have 11 in ours. So we had to break out a score of 1 to 100 across these 11 elements. The next thing we had to do was break this down into bands, right? We wanted to create tranches based on the scores that helped us understand, okay, customers that rank in a certain range, right? Maybe low, middle, high end. We wanted to understand what the commonalities were of the customers that fall into those cohorts, because it would allow us to think differently about how we segment, how we create journeys for them, the resources we'll need to staff against it, the engagement models, right? So those bands and the thresholds of those bands allowed us to figure out how do we want to service the customers based on that. And the last thing that this did for us, it allowed us to influence our program management, right? So I talk about this all the time, right? There is no one size fits all customer success experience. And for many of you, if you've been at multiple different companies in your professional journey, hopefully you see customer success looks very different at different companies. And that's the way it should be. And that's also the way it'll feel for our customers. If you're designing a one size fits all experience and customer lifecycle, you're likely going to lose your customers along the way because they don't all fit into this perfect little box. So the idea of understanding what their profile was, weighting this appropriately, creating these bands helped influence this lifecycle that we designed for them to help them get the most from the partnership. Right? So customers who, again, have tons of experience or tons of resources or have different elements, right? Their teams are a certain size or leadership looks like a certain way. We can create an experience and a journey, and not just within customer success. This kind of goes across the entire company, but how you service and support the customers based on where they are. It might, as we're talking through this, give you maturation model feels, right? So if you've designed a maturity model or something like that, you might get a little bit of that sense in here because I could see the commonalities, but it is a little bit different. We'll talk about that. So these are the 4 things that I thought about when we designed our success probability score here at ClientSuccess, right? Create a profile, weight it out, create these score bands, and the program management. And I will tell you, the cool thing about what we did here was that yes, I may have come up with a concept, but I brought everyone into the process here. I put this in front of sales and we ideated on it a little bit. I put it in front of the customer success team and we noodled on it. I presented it to Dave and he leaned in and gave his points of view. So we made this a company initiative because this was something that we'd all have to be bought into in order to make this work for us. And I'll tell you, we're still designing and kind of putting things in place because we're actually redesigning a lot of our customer success stuff right now for 2023. So this is going to be a huge component of it moving forward. So let's start by thinking about how you select your criteria, right? So for many of you, you're like, great concept, Kristi, makes a ton of sense, but how do we think about designing this in my organization? Now, I know that many of you are first timers here, but I will tell you, we try to make these practical and tactical. So I'm going to kind of instruct you on how you're going to take this concept and build this out in your organization or present these ideas to maybe your leaders who can go then and move forward with it. So the first thing we think about is, where is your customer in their journey? So for us, I looked a lot about, customers who are most successful deploying customer success software, right? Are these individuals or organizations who are really bought into customer success at a company-wide level, right? Do they have customer success leadership that is part of the executive leadership team? Have they built out processes before, right? Is the leader who's maybe the executive sponsor of the program, do they have experience deploying customer success software, right? So understanding where they are in their personal journey, right? It has nothing to do with your software or your partnership. It's really understanding who they are and where they are. That's going to help influence their ability to be successful. Now, the next point, right? What do they have? Do they have what they need to be successful? This is an interesting one. For some of your companies, right, if you have a customizable or highly configurable product, you're going to need to make sure that they have the right resources, they have the right experience and knowledge internally. And understanding where those gaps lie is going to help you define what resources you'll need to staff or what that journey looks like that you're going to put them on. So understanding, we know that a customer to be successful has to have these things in place. Well, do they have those things? For us, right, one of the things we'll talk about, we integrate with the CRM, right? Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever your CRM is. If a customer doesn't have all of their customer data in a CRM where they can easily ingest it into our platform, right, that becomes a little bit prohibitive. Now, that's not a blocker by any means. There's tons of ways to get creative with importing things. And if you've got a spreadsheet, we can work with that. But, the difference between a customer who has and doesn't have makes a difference on how we work together. Understanding, is it about the company or the people? In some cases, the criteria that we'll walk through for us is about the company, but then other elements are about the people, right? I talked about their experience or resources or things like that. Those are all going to be important for you to consider, right? Are these things that are going to be important to our success? And then what are the right amount of data points? Right. Like I said, for us, we're using 11 points. And like I said, I think we were at 10. I felt good with 10. And then someone else brought up a good point and we included it. I said, okay, we could have 11. So figuring out what are the most important things, right? What is the exact number of things that you have to have in order to create a profile that you feel like will be really effective for your business? So these are all things you're going to have to think about. Now, one of the things that we did is we went through our customer base and we looked at our customers who were most successful, right? We didn't kind of come up with these things by ourselves in a bubble. We said, look at these customers who are getting a ton of value. They're highly engaged. They've become huge advocates of us. Many of them have purchased ClientSuccess multiple times. Great. What did they all have in common? And so we started to think about the commonalities across those customers. And that's really how we started to think about creating that list. So I would highly encourage you to maybe ideate initially so you have some place to work from. But really, the most important aspect of this is going to be able to look at your customers. And this is where marketing and sales and your product team, right? Bring everyone together, give everyone a voice, because this criteria is going to be really important once you hone in on it. So just think about that. And then analyzing your customer information is going to be extremely helpful there. So I want to walk you through and just kind of give you an example. And like, we're an open book here at ClientSuccess. I believe that like what I'm building, what we're doing here, I want to share with the community. I want to bring you all along for the ride. We're not hiding anything. And these are things we're even comfortable sharing with our customers because we help them understand where they are and allow them to lean in and understand why we're doing the things that we're doing with them. So these were our 11 points. Now you'll notice that you're going to see lines across that say 5, 10, 15, 20. That is their point value. So this is saying the ones that match up to that 5, those are 5 points. Then you have the next one is 10 points, 15 points, 20 points. So you'll start to see what are the things that have a stronger weighting for us than other things. So the first thing we looked at is the leadership, right? For us, it was really important to feel like customer success had a seat at the table. In organizations where our customers were most successful, they either had a VP, an SVP, a GVP, a chief customer officer, somebody who was representing that customer experience, that life cycle at the leadership table. We found that getting buy-in and support and being part of the change management that's required to make a software like ours wildly successful was going to require that level of buy-in. So that was something we looked at, right? So does that leadership report to the CEO? Or listen, maybe sometimes it's other parts of the business, like you can see CS roll into product or revenue or other parts of the business, and that's okay. But for us, the most important one was reporting to the CEO. So we looked at this, again, it's binary, yes or no. The next thing we considered is this an experienced leader? Now, whether or not a customer leader has 5, 10, 15, 20 years experience, that's not necessarily what we're questioning here. We want to make sure that this person probably has done this even at other organizations, right? This isn't their first rodeo. Sometimes what we find is that, you're a first-time leader. Maybe you were promoted into that leadership role in the organization you're sitting in today, and you're excited, you're buying this technology. We want to make sure that we're helping you as a leader grow, and we're educating you and we're enabling you in different ways. So understanding that leader's experience level allows us to lean in creative ways and offer our support. For example, I do something every Thursday where I kind of call them community hours. And these are hours where I allocate some time to speak with folks in the community. And I'll do a lot of coaching and mentorship with leaders. And many of the ones that take me up on that time are first-time leaders. And they're reaching out because they are seeking help and guidance, right? Or they want to run some ideas past somebody. Those are things that first-time leaders need. And so we want to make sure that, again, I can lean in from an executive standpoint, or Dave can help. We just want to make sure we're staffing the right resources. So that is an important piece of criteria for us to understand, because that may strengthen the partnership. The next thing we look at, also worth 10 points, is experience building and deploying CS software. For many of our customers, right, maybe they've been in another organization and maybe they've deployed a different platform outside of ClientSuccess, or heck, maybe they've deployed ClientSuccess many times before. That experience in knowing how to build and deploy and drive adoption and change management around customer success software, it makes a big difference. For individuals who are doing this for the first time, right, there's a lot of unknowns, right? They don't know what they don't know. But if you've done this like 3, 4, or 5 times before, you're coming in, you're ready to hit the ground running. So you've got a different level of experience there that's going to help accelerate maybe your onboarding or your adoption, or really help us make this successful a little bit faster. The next thing we look at, and this has the most weighting, is when they come into our partnership, do they have a predefined CS strategy? Now, I will tell you, right, I've deployed, just for everyone in the community who's less familiar with me, I've deployed customer success software multiple times. I've got a lot of experience in doing so. And I will tell you, the way to be most successful deploying customer success software is understanding that the software is not your strategy, right? The software is a mechanism helping you orchestrate your strategy. So customers that come in with an understanding of what their customer lifecycle looks like, what their customer health scores look like, the types of playbooks that they want to orchestrate in the platform, right? What their engagement model looks like. If they come into the partnership with those things predefined, that allows us to kind of build out their vision, right? We can do that quickly. For customers who don't have that, it's okay. We're here to help. We take a very consultative approach to supporting our customers. But when they don't have that, we spend time educating and building during onboarding, and that can sometimes slow us down, right? So understanding that makes a big difference in how fast we can get to value with our customers, which I'm sure all of you are working towards as well. Do they have a CS ops resource? This is just important. Like, do they have a technical resource who'll be doing a lot of the building behind the scenes? Our platform, super easy to use, super easy to build. You don't really need an ops manager. This is more focused on, do you have resources that can do the build? Because even though it's not difficult to build, you still have to put all that stuff into a system. We look at the number of folks on the team. Now, why does this matter? Well, the more CSMs you have, the greater your adoption. The stickier the platform, right? Probably the longevity of the partnership. So it does matter to us when we think about, okay, how many people are on the team and what does that look like? The next thing we look at is leverage ratios. We want to make sure that we, our support model here at ClientSuccess, we do support organizations who want to have human engagement with their customers. So we look at the leverage ratios, right? If you have a team of CSMs and each of your CSMs is supporting 1,000 customers, maybe our solution isn't for you. But if you are a customer success team and maybe your team is managing anywhere from 1 customer or to 100 customers, you're going to be successful with our solution. So we try to hone in on what do the leverage ratios look across the board. Your CRM, does it have accurate and current data, and you have an admin? Because we do integrate with your CRM, we want to make sure that you've got good, clean, accurate data in there. Garbage in, garbage out, right? If you've got bad data in your CRM and you're putting your bad data into our platform, guess what? We're going to be as useful. And so we want to make sure that we have an understanding of, okay, is the data that you have today that you want to ingest in our software, is that being managed? Is it being maintained? Do you guys have regulation around it? Because that's going to help make sure that the data going into our solution is going to be useful. Are you a SaaS business? Our model, we know that SaaS companies are just really successful with us. We've got a lot of non-SaaS customers, but that's why the weighting is so low here, only 5 points there. And then we look at, their funding. For us, from a health standpoint, we want to make sure that they're investing in customer success. We want to make sure they have the funds to do so. So usually the sustainability for the organization and the growth and the potential there, we want to just make sure that, again, well-funded organizations tend to just be able to stick around a little bit longer and do more with the partnership. And then US based, we look at this only because our team is staffed here in the US. There's no other factor here except for from a resource allocation. We want to make sure that we're servicing all of our customers around the globe, and we've got tons all over the world, probably many who are on this call. For us, we just look at that because it's more of just, do we have resources in the right locations? Language is important to us too. We are fortunate to have multiple language speakers on our team, so we can help service other languages, but again, understanding that makes a difference. So let me pause for a moment. I'm going to take a breath, but these are the 11 things that we have designed for our customer base. Now, I'm showing this to you all because this is the type of stuff you might want to consider. Now, you'll look here, right? None of this includes what they're spending with us, what their goals are with us, right? This has nothing to do with client success. This is everything to do with who our customers are and where they are and the resources they have and their ability to go and be successful quickly with a partnership. And so that's what I'm encouraging all of you to do, is think about not yourselves, but externally. What do your customers need to do? What is their profile in their business look like in order for them to be successful using your software and engaging with and working with your team? So like I said, this is our 11 points. This is how we've weighted them. Of course, you can come up with all different kinds of weightings. I just find that 5-point increments is just easy. I tried to make everything non-binary here, or binary here, so everything was like yes or no. Very easy to weigh in on. There's no gray, there's no middle. Either you have these things or you don't have these things. So for me, there is simplicity in this that makes it easy for my sales team to kind of lean into. So when you're coming up with your own criteria, you can use this as an example of some of the things that you might think about, right? But your business looks very different. Your customers are very different. The environment you're working in, very different. So again, hone in on who your customers are and what makes them successful. So you might want to think about, when do you want to establish your score? Now, there's tons of places in the journey where, and again, this is like a when and sequencing thing of like when you want to go and create the score. For context, we're having our sales team do this because we want to make sure that we know as early as possible, once they become a customer, what their score looks like, because this will help ensure that our kickoff call, our onboarding, and our long-term engagement is in line with them. So for us, it's in that pre-sales. So this would be having your sales team qualify, come up with that score, and then we can use that data right before we kick off. Now, in some organizations, you might say, you know what, actually, we don't want the sales team to do it. We're going to have the CS team do it. And so maybe you want to do it during that kickoff, right? So for some organizations, hopefully you're doing a separate kickoff. We've done a whole session on the partnership kickoff model that we use here at ClientSuccess. Wildly successful framework. I encourage you to check it out if you haven't, but we do a partnership kickoff. This happens before onboarding commences. So you might want to think about having your CSM qualify your customer at the start of the partnership. In which case your kickoff call, whether that's your onboarding kickoff or just your partnership kickoff, either way, having the team go and qualify the customer there. The next stage that you could probably do this in and still get value from it would be in onboarding. So let's just say sales closes it, you hand it off to CS, that's fine. Now you've got maybe your CSM leading onboarding, or maybe you've got a services team or onboarding team. And so your onboarding team could be the ones to go and qualify the customers during the onboarding process, right? They're probably learning a lot about what the customer has and doesn't have, right? A lot of the elements I showed you, I could just say our sales team does amazing discovery. They have lots of fantastic conversations with the prospects. So they have all this information coming in. Maybe that's not the case in your business, right? Maybe some of the points of criteria aren't things that will come up in your sales process, in which case it becomes prohibitive to have sales qualify. You might not learn some of the things that are important until you get into onboarding, in which case maybe that is the appropriate place to have that live, right? So now you have either your CSM or your onboarding manager, maybe they're doing the qualifying. Or lastly, maybe you're saying, you know what, not pre-sales, not kickoff, not onboarding, but once they are now a customer who has the ability to now successfully use our platform because they've been trained, enabled, their software has been configured properly, maybe that happens in your adoption stage of your journey, right? So after onboarding, and that's okay too. I will say, because of how we want to use it here at ClientSuccess, for us, it was a no-brainer that sales does it. Not only does sales already know all this information about our customers because of the great discovery they do, but because it helps influence and inform us sooner, so we can drive a better experience from them day one. And we always say you only have one chance to make a first impression, and so that happens in the kickoff with us. So the more we know, the better off we are. So for us, like I said, we have sales do that. That happens as we kick off. We can use that information. We can share it back with our customers to let them know, hey, here's what we know about where you're starting with this project, with this initiative. And so as a result, right, here's how we're going to ensure your success, right? Here's how onboarding might be slightly modified, or here's the resources we can staff you with, or heck, here's this bootcamp series that you can go and watch or attend live and, learn a little bit more if you're a first-time leader, right? So we can really make sure that we are providing the right experience, the right resources, and the right people to support the right conversations. So like I said, for each of you, as you're deciding when this is appropriate, you'll go through and you'll figure that out. Now, once you've got your probability score figured out, right, and you know where you're going to go and qualify and go get that score configured, you've got to figure out how you're going to track it, right? You can't manage what you can't measure, or can't measure what you can't manage. But you're going to have to come up with a way to track your probability score. So 3 places that I think are going to be best suited to house this data. One is your CRM. So if you're using something like Salesforce or HubSpot or Sugar CRM, whatever it is, right? Maybe housing it there, it's going to be the easiest. Now, it could be really cool to have it there, especially if your sales team is the one who's going to be capturing that number. They're already in your CRM. So maybe for them, giving them an easy input where it's just like, here, go do the calculations, get a score, and it lives in the CRM, totally fine, especially if your post-sales team is also orchestrating all their efforts through the CRM. Now, the next place you might want to house it is your customer management software, right? So for us at ClientSuccess, obviously, we're using ClientSuccess. So for us, we have a custom field called probability score. And the score goes right in there and allows us to then use that data to help inform experiences, right? Certain playbooks that get triggered in our software, how the team engages, what onboarding might look like, different metrics. So for us, we're storing it in ClientSuccess. So if you are using a customer success management software, ClientSuccess or the like, I would definitely recommend that your CS team have it in there. Now, most platforms do integrate with your CRM, right? Which means if you put it in your CRM, hopefully it's data that can be passed through. So if your sales team is creating it in the CRM, create a field, map it over, and have it flow right in. That way it removes any manual work that's required. Of course, if you're not putting it in your CRM to start, have a field where you can go and audit that and kind of make sure it's being managed. The last place, and I always say this, Excel, probably the most powerful tool in the world. If you're using Excel or Sheets, Google Sheets to manage your customers, which is totally fine. I know a lot of smaller companies with a lot less customers, you're getting started, you're not ready to procure software, you're using Sheets, totally fine. Create a cell, stick the number in there. But just make sure you've got a place where you can manage this, because the idea here is, especially in early parts of you using this score, you're going to need to make modifications, right? You're going to want to make sure that you understand that score and its direct correlation back to different things that you're doing with your customers, as well as data that you might be seeing. For us, long-term, we're trying to figure out is there a direct correlation with the scoring and then retention and growth long-term? The ability to see value faster through onboarding, right? So there's a lot of things that we want to make sure that we're looking at that number and correlation with. So make sure that you're housing it in a place where the team has easy access to it and can use it effectively in the business. The next thing is putting it to work, right? So you're not creating a score for the sake of creating a score. Hopefully you're creating this score so you can use it to do different things, again, to enhance their experience. So the first thing I love the score for, to use it to segment your customers. Now, I will tell you, so many companies I've either worked at or companies of leaders I've spoken with, they're still segmenting their customers exclusively by ARR. The challenge with that is that model, it doesn't tell you anything about your customers, right? So it doesn't allow your team to do work differently based on who your customers are or what they need. All it's telling you is how much they're spending. Now, I've got customers, and I'm sure all of you have too. I've got some that spend a ton of money that need a lot of resourcing. I've got some that spend a ton of money that are completely fine being independent. So using that as the sole metric to bifurcate how your customers are being serviced and supported, I don't think it's the best way. If you're using this as a component, right, your success probability score does not need to be the only factor. But if you make it one piece of that puzzle, I think your segmentation would be a lot stronger, because you're now going to work for your customers based on who they are. The next thing you might want to do is have it influence how you onboard your customers. Think about a completely custom onboarding journey based on the different cohorts of customers, right? So we looked at my score criteria, maybe customers who don't have experience building, first-time leader, they don't have a predefined success strategy. That's okay. With that understanding, right, their score might be lower, but now my team can really shine because we're going to teach them. We're going to educate them. We're going to coach them. We're going to help give them the tools and resources to make sure that they're successful. Now, on the other end, I might have customers that have really high scores, but I don't need to provide that same level of education, right? I don't need to tell the chief customer officer at some enterprise company who's done this, longer than I've been alive, how to do their job. Instead, I want to make sure that we're getting them fast time to value. We're teaching them how to use our product, kind of just unleashing the power that they can go and run with, right? So the experience for onboarding is going to be modified based on who they are and where they are. Now, your customer lifecycle, right? So think past onboarding, what happens? How do you engage? This should also influence that, right? How you're partnering, the different playbooks, how you start different initiatives, the ongoing training, enablement, education, how you pull them into your communities. Everything you do throughout the life cycle of your customer should be influenced by that score. So thinking through the different models and variations based on who they are. Your next one, engagement model. Again, if I've got a customer who's very clear, they've deployed software, maybe our software 2 or 3 times, they're experts, they might say, hey, Kristi, you know what, we'll talk to you once a quarter, and that's fine. We're great. Don't call us, we'll call you type of mindset. That's fine, right? And then I have other customers who again, this is so new and so foreign to them. I'd rather my team lean into those customers because they're the ones that are going to benefit from that engagement. So think differently about how you're engaging based on those scores. And the last element that I put here, and definitely not the least, you can definitely get super creative with how you're making this score work for you, but your health scores. I'm not saying that this is your health score, right? I made that very clear at the beginning. This does not replace your health score, but you can create different health scores. One of the things that's super cool about ClientSuccess is that we have the ability to create various health score profiles, meaning multiple health scores. So let's just say that I'm using the probability score to segment my customers. I could create a unique health score profile for each of those segments, which might suggest that a customer who had a lower probability score, right? Again, maybe first-time leader, they don't have maybe executive buy-in, they might need a little help there, haven't deployed our product before, or a product like ours. We might need to look at the elements of our health score a little bit differently, because that success criteria is going to feel and look a little different, right? They might not get to a place where they're going to be using every part of our platform day one, the way a very sophisticated user could be. They might be, really happy using certain small elements of our product and getting a ton of value out of that, right? Like they might say, hey, Kristi, we want to use this for engagement and tracking pulse. And if we can do those two things, we've democratized data and given visibility to our team on how we're engaging with customers. And we're happy as a clam. But that's what's cool about having the ability to customize health scores, is that I can view the customers through an appropriate lens, as opposed to saying that my biggest, most sophisticated customers are going to look the same way that my newer customers are. So I think it's really important to think about how you can create unique health scores to measure your customers' health and sentiment over time. So obviously, all of this is fantastic, but Kristi, okay, how are we measuring the impact of this to our business, right? What's the real value to us to do something like this? Well, I'll tell you, the first thing is designing a better customer experience. Hands down, if you are a customer success leader, if you're working in a customer success department, if you aspire to be in a customer success role one day, you should be focused on creating a very good, strong customer experience. And so using information like we have built into our probability score will help us create and design a customer lifecycle that will far surpass their expectations, right? Again, we're meeting them where they are, as opposed to us assuming that they can meet us where we want them to be. So this just creates a very, really nice way to partner with them that feels very custom, very tailored. And I'll tell you, like that makes all the difference for our customers. The next thing, it allows you to track the right metrics. If you think about the scoring here, and like I talked about with the health scores, you'll be able to create all new leading indicators to interpret how your customers are doing and how they're getting value. So you're going to introduce new metrics as a result of having a framework like this, because you're going to be thinking differently about your customers, right? Hopefully, we've gotten through you need to check a box and do an EBR or QBR, right? Like that's not the value that we want to be measuring and tracking, right? Those are activities. And so being able to use this to influence new metrics that really do help you understand your customer's ability to drive value. This could also help you mitigate risk, right? So for a lot of your customers, if you're putting all of your customers through the same standard onboarding and you're expecting them to be able to do everything and be successful all the same way, you're mistaken. I can tell you firsthand experience, if you've never failed in customer success, I have plenty of times. Best way to fail is to assume that your customers can all be successful following the same path and track. A couple companies ago, we had a one-size-fits-all onboarding experience. It did not matter what the customer said, did, need, or wanted. It was, each week we covered these things. 4 weeks is all they had, cut them off, stopped it, moved them on. And it was like a factory, right? You know how much risk we created by creating that experience? Because we were so focused on this, like getting them in, getting them out, and not providing them with what they actually needed, that customers never fully adopted our software. They never engaged properly. And that failure to launch was their reality. And the project became so overwhelming and so daunting that they never came back to it. And guess what? If your customers aren't using your product, they're likely not going to renew your product. And so we actually had a lot of churn because of that. Hopefully, using this new score can influence how you're bringing your customers through the journey, creating experiences that are better for them, having better visibility. You can mitigate that risk long term. And the last thing here is the ability to influence sales, marketing, and product. I love that because honestly, customer success is a company-wide initiative. And I know that everyone says that. Very few companies embody that. I will always beat this drum because I think it's so critical. But great ways to bring your counterparties along with you, right? Your sales team, your marketing teams, your product teams, is to provide them with things that they can use to do their jobs better. Well, now imagine if now I have this data, this rich data about how we made these customers successful, what they looked like when they started, how we did it, and we can create some repeatable processes around that. I can share that with my sales team. Now my sales team is armed with different talk tracks and can really help customers of all sizes, even ones that are, on the borderline of their ICP or maybe not, help them understand and visualize their ability to be successful with us, because they're going to have these stories about how other customers did it using what we've designed. Your marketing teams, they can create new stories, new collateral, using new language and new kind of journeys and all of this stuff that can really help sell your product and the experiences you create. And then your product team, right? If you understand more about your customers and what they're doing and how they're doing these things, it can hopefully influence the roadmap, innovation, long-term strategy. And so, I've worked at companies where something like this would have really helped us, because we could have probably broken into a whole new ICP or a new market because of the data we would have captured here. So I'm big on data and using it cross-functionally. I think if you do this really well, the learnings here should benefit the entire company. So when you think about impact to your customer, impact to your business metrics, impact to your company. Now, since so many of you are new, I will say at the end of every bootcamp I do, I always provide you with hey, don't do these things. So in true fashion of my format, I'm going to leave you with 5 things to avoid. Don't do them. So 1, this does not replace your customer health score. I've now said that 3 or 4 times. I want to make sure that sticks. This is another number to help influence and drive strategy. This is not your customer health score, right? So this number also is going to change. The reality of it is this is helpful in the first year. You may not use this probability score in year 2 or 3 or 4, right? It's really helpful in year 1 right now. That's how I'm seeing the value, is because it helps inform how we can get these customers successfully into the partnership. And then obviously we will evolve over time as they evolve as well. Not your health score. 2, don't forget to track and modify as needed. We've come up with 11 pieces of criteria. Heck, I will tell you, it is likely this will either evolve to 12 or it will go down to 8, right? There will be modifications here, and you need to be flexible. You need to make sure that you're learning. So you have to track it. You have to be able to see the correlation and causation of the data and what you're doing with it. 3, don't deploy this initiative in a vacuum. Bring your team in. Like I said, when we came up with our criteria here, I asked the sales team, I asked the CS team, Dave weighed in. We all talked about this together because it was important that everyone weighed in. I only see so much, right? My team sees things, the sales team sees, everyone sees something different. It's important to give everyone a voice if you want a cross-functional initiative to be successful. 4, don't just build the score. The program is where the power lies. Again, we're not doing this for the sake of having another number. That's not what this is. We're using that number to design what that experience looks like. So if you're not using it to segment your customers, change your onboarding, change your life cycle, or create new health scores, whatever it is, if you're not using it to do those things, then don't bother, right? This is not creating a number for the sake of creating a number. And the last thing, don't be afraid to share the insights with your customers. They're going to appreciate it if you do it right. For us, like I said, knowing where our customers are, there's nothing bad here, right? There was nothing insulting. It's me and my team understanding who they are and where they are, so we can give them what we know they're going to need to be successful. So bring them into it, right? Let them know and say, hey, because of these things, we want to make sure that we're giving you what you need. Heck, maybe they opt in or opt out of certain things that you're wanting to design for them, but let them see, let them understand. That transparency really helps to build and foster relationships long-term. So that said, I've given you my 5 mistakes to avoid when you think about this probability score. I'm going to pause right there for a moment. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Welcome my friend Dave back, and hopefully we can get to some Q&A.
Okay, thanks, Kristi. Awesome segment again. Super excited. We have a lot of questions. Several of them you just answered. So a few had questions around, is this a replacement for a health score, or does it become your health score? I think you clarified that.
Hopefully I did. I think I said that 4 times, so I will say it a fifth. This does not replace your health score. It should help inform your health score. It could be a part of it's a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think this is, I'll just say, like, a lot of people hear about ideal customer profile. This is kind of closer to that in my mind, is identifying the probability of a new customer being successful based on certain criteria. That's how I would look at it as well.
Mhm.
So excellent. Somebody asked, how would you communicate a lower probability score to the customer? If you had a customer that was scored low, do you communicate that to them? Do you say, hey, we're not the right fit for you? How would you approach that?
No, I mean, listen, the reality of it is, I think in this, especially this economic climate, you're going to sell to people that will buy your software. The idea here is not to deter my sales team from selling, right? I want to encourage them to sell. The score, low or high, is to help my team understand how we can make this customer successful. Because I do believe you can make 99% of your customers successful. There's always that 1%. But this helps my team understand where they are, right? It doesn't matter. And communicating a lower number to my team it's not bad. It's their reality. It's their truth. If you think back to the criteria I had, does CS report to the leadership team? No, that's okay. That's not a bad thing. That's your reality. You've never deployed CS software before? Cool. We love to be the first time you do it. We're going to do it so well with you. You'll want to do it all the time, right? These aren't bad no's. If your score is low, all it does is probably give you more of us, to be honest with you. So it's not a bad thing. Low score just helps us augment our strategy and our approach.
Yeah, it's given us a heads up on how we might want to modify and best align resources to make that customer successful. Awesome. Okay, frequency. I know you said revisit it often. Be more. People are asking more specific. Like, should I revisit it quarterly, annually? Any ideas there?
Yeah, listen, I mean, we haven't had this in place for years and years where it's like, oh yeah, I do it every quarter. I will tell you right now, what we're trying to do is just watch it. So I'm not making any modifications, right? This is the initial criteria we started with. The scoring and the weighting hasn't changed. But what we're trying to see right now is we've scored these customers. I'm talking to the team weekly in our team meetings about how the onboarding of these customers is going. We look at the score as a barometer, and we hope that we can see correlation and causation of here's where they started, here's the experience we're designing for them. Is this helping them be more successful, or is it not helping them? So when I talk about paying attention to it and watching it, it's watching how you're having it influence your business. Because the worst thing you could do is create a program around this, say, well, this is the number and here's the program, and everyone go run and go do. But if what you're doing isn't working, you have to be prepared to pivot. So the watching and the frequency there is pay attention to the impact your strategy is having and modify as needed. If my team came to me and said, hey, Kristi, everything we're doing for the 0s to 50 is horrible. We need to stop. I have to stop. We have to pivot. So it's more pay attention because this is new. It's a new concept, and you're hopefully driving new initiatives as a result of it.
Awesome. A couple others, just comments and thoughts. Some have asked, is this something that you would want to take the initial probability score or level and track it over time to say, here's what we thought. This is in the sales process and early onboarding. Here's actually what it is. Is there any concepts of that, taking the initial score and validating the actual results?
100%. So one of the things that we're going to do is obviously we've got this tracked in client success. So we can see the probability score. We can also see like customer ICP because we tracked that. So ICP to probability score to health score, right? How is their health score tracking over time? Then be able to see, did the customer grow, stay, or leave? And so being able to correlate all those metrics can help tell a story. What I feel, doesn't work necessarily is just putting all your eggs into one numbered basket. So for me, being able to have more data points to go off of, I feel like it helps us influence and inform a bit better.
Yeah, and someone just asked to ask a question: how to navigate the overlap? How to navigate the overlap that could exist between ICP and probability score? My feedback is that I would hope that the probability score and the insights that you glean there actually inform and improve the ICP, right?
Over time, yeah.
Yeah, over time, the customer success team is feeding insights back to the sales team, improving that ICP over time to really help them understand what is the true ideal customer, right?
Correct. But out the gate, right? Like, I don't want to, this is where it gets a little fuzzy, right? I don't want to tell the sales team, hey, I have this really cool idea. Stop what you're doing. We haven't learned enough about what I'm proposing yet to say that this could or shouldn't, make changes there. But what I did say as my last point is that you should use it to influence and inform your cross-functional teams. So sales being a part of that. If I see that, like, listen, sales team, if you're selling to folks that are a no on this, we literally cannot be successful. They churn every time. That's a really important data point that we have to be able to share back, because Dave, to your point, that should influence the ICP, that should change our selling dynamic.
Agreed. Well, it looks like we're out of time. It's been an awesome webinar. Thanks, Kristi, for all that you do. It looks like the audience has really enjoyed it by their comments. Thank you, everybody, for joining in this week. And if you liked it, go tell your friends. Bring more back next week. They're only going to get better for the rest of the month. So go tell everybody else, bring them back, send them here. And we hope to see you all next week. It's Valentine's Day. I actually will be gone. I'm sorry. Kristi might be flying solo next week.
You're leaving me alone on Valentine's Day?
I may be in Kauai.
Okay, you should go enjoy your trip. I will be here alone, and I will likely not be wearing black. Maybe I will wear red.
All right, I'll join in from the beach. But I hope everybody comes back next time, same place. Another great webinar series. Thanks again, and have a great Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.